If you strip away the romance and saga poetry, winter in the Viking world was a slow, grinding test of endurance. Long nights, damp cold that crept into bone and timber, and temperatures that could kill quietly in a single sleep. There were no sleeping bags, no synthetic insulation, no central heating, and yet people survived year after year, raised families, crossed seas, and lived long enough to become old. That alone tells us something important. Viking winter sleep was not accidental or crude. It was deliberate, practiced, and grounded in hard-earned knowledge of heat, materials, and human physiology. If you stay with me for the next minute, you'll see that Vikings didn't simply sleep through the cold, they engineered terrain using the same principles modern survivalists still rely on, and in some cases, they understood those principles better than we do today. They understood first that staying warm at night was not about blankets alone, but about controlling heat loss before the body ever touched a bed. A Viking winter sleep began hours before lying down. Heavy labor was timed to raise body heat in the evening, not the morning. Chopping wood, hauling water, tending animals, and repairing gear all served a second purpose, loading the body with warmth. Modern physiology confirms this strategy. Going to sleep warm dramatically reduces nighttime hypothermia risk. A practical application today is simple. If you are winter camping, do not crawl into your shelter cold. Do controlled movement beforehand, then insulate immediately to trap that heat. The sleeping platform itself was carefully designed. Vikings did not sleep directly on the ground. In longhouses, raised wooden benches ran along the walls, often filled or layered with straw, hay, or dried grasses. These materials trapped air, creating insulation beneath the sleeper. Ground contact is one of the fastest ways to lose heat, and Vikings clearly understood this through experience. In outdoor conditions, similar principles applied. Temporary shelters used spruce boughs or thick grass layers as bedding. Anyone applying this today should prioritize insulation below the body before adding layers above. A thick base of dry plant matter or modern foam serves the same function. Animal skins were not luxury items, they were thermal tools. Sheep, reindeer, seals, and bears provided hides that retained natural oils and dense fur. These skins were often layered, with the fur facing inward to trap heat and the hide facing outward to block drafts. Wool blankets were used alongside skins, and this combination mattered. Wool retains warmth even when damp, a critical advantage in Scandinavian winters. A modern parallel would be layering wool blankets with a wind-resistant outer layer. Synthetic materials imitate this today, but the Viking method remains remarkably effective. Heat retention inside Viking dwellings depended on architecture as much as bedding. Longhouses were low-ceilinged and semi-sunken into the ground, reducing exposure to wind. Central hearths burned slowly overnight, not to heat the entire space but to prevent temperature collapse. Smoke holes were carefully sized to retain warmth while allowing airflow. People slept closer to the hearth in winter, often in family groups, using shared body heat. This was not sentimentality, it was survival math. 2 bodies generate more heat than one, and Vikings took advantage of it. In modern emergency situations, shared shelter and close sleeping arrangements remain one of the most reliable ways to prevent cold-related death. Clothing was not removed for sleep in winter. Vikings slept dressed, often in layered wool garments that doubled as insulation. Nightwear was a modern invention. Wool tunics, leggings, and socks remained on the body, and in extreme cold, cloaks were used as additional covering. The key lesson here is not comfort but continuity. Removing clothes resets body temperature. Modern survival training emphasizes the same rules: sleep in dry, insulated clothing and avoid unnecessary exposure. One overlooked factor is moisture management. Vikings were obsessive about dryness. Wet bedding was dried near the hearth. Snow was brushed off clothing before entering the sleeping area. Moisture kills insulation, and Vikings learned this through generations of loss. Applying this today means managing condensation inside tents, airing out blankets when possible, and never ignoring dampness in cold conditions. Diet also played a role. Heavy evening meals rich in fat and protein were common in winter. Meat, fish, and dairy provided slow-burning calories that generated internal heat through digestion. This is not folklore, it is basic thermogenesis. A practical application is consuming calorie-dense food before sleeping in cold environments. Hunger accelerates cold stress, something Vikings understood intuitively. What makes Viking winter sleep truly instructive is how integrated it was. Architecture, clothing, diet, bedding, and daily routine all worked together. No single element was enough on its own. This is the mistake many modern people make when thinking about historical survival. They focus on one object instead of a system. The Viking system worked because every part reinforced the others. If you're a historian, this reframes Viking life as deeply technical rather than primitive. If you're a survivalist, it offers a proven blueprint that predates modern materials by 1,000 years. These methods weren't theoretical, they were tested every winter with death as the consequence of failure. If you want more deep dives like this into the practical realities of ancient survival, subscribe to Strange History, share this with someone who still thinks the past was simple, and stay curious. The old world still has lessons worth learning.